Okay, so my next little piece is the holes that are on both sides of the cubbies. And it looks like maybe at one point, because these are paired up, there's 2 and 2, maybe there were like 2 pieces that went across here. When I bought the boat, there was a single piece of wood that covered this whole thing all the way down to the bottom. And it just had one hole, one screw on each side, so that's that hole. And the problem with that is that when water got in here, that kept the water from draining out. So the water would just pool over here, and then it was soaking the wood. The wood was not, it was not teak or anything. So that was just blistering and whatever. And so I'm gonna fill all these holes, and then what I'm gonna use is I bought a sheet of starboard. And so I'm gonna cut a little retention piece that's gonna go across here. It'll be able to drain underneath, but you know, it'll hold any like bulk items that end up in these cubbies. Now, some of these other scratches, I'm not gonna worry about for this because it's just gonna take too much time. I'll never get this boat on the water. So I'm just focusing on the holes. So the cracks around these holes really were not bad. Not very, they were very shallow, so not full thickness of the gel coat. So just a little light sanding along the cracks that were splintering out from the holes. You can see right here and right here, a couple down here. But really not bad at all. And so the gel coat stayed together pretty well as I was grinding that out. Okay, so now I've ground out the starboard side, all these little holes in the cubby, and just gonna get my little sanding block and rough up the area that's exposed, and I'm gonna be covering it up with MarineTex. Okay, so this hole, there was a screw here, and I'm not sure what the purpose of it was. There might have been a latch to hold down this door, but it was just a screw in there. And I'm gonna go ahead and fill that in. And so this is another area where I'm gonna be using MarineTex because it's just gonna be filled in and then it's gonna be white. If I was putting a new screw in here, I would probably use JB Marine Weld epoxy, because I like that better for places where screws or bolts are going in. But since this is just filling the hole, I'm going to go ahead and use the MarineTex. So the first thing I got to do is sand some of this out. So yeah, you can see this got pretty big because all this gel coat just wasn't adhered to the fiberglass underneath in this area. The edges, you want it to be like a V shape where you do the filler. You don't want it to be a perfectly vertical edge where you're doing your repair. So I'm just gonna follow up the grinding that I did with, this is a 180 grit block. And just kind of smooth it out a little more, but still have a roughed up surface so that the MarineTex will be able to grip it. That's a little too vertical, I think. Okay, so this is the port side locker, and same thing here. I was able to keep this one a lot smaller because the gel coat was adhering to the fiberglass below it much better. And you know, the other thing is you have to go the full depth of the scratch. And I can actually see a little more of this here. Okay, so that's better. So yeah, you have to go the full depth of the scratch because otherwise the material underneath might not still adhere. So you might as well just get it all out. But this one definitely is much better on this side as far as the gel coat adhering to the fiberglass still. Cool. So this is those holes that I filled in, and you can see I used a lot of material, just so that way I have enough to sand down. But yeah, that's definitely cured. Let's see what this area looks like. Same thing here. So screw hole that I filled in, that's fully cured. And you know, a lot of excess so that I can sand it down. And I'll tape around it so that way I don't damage any of the gel coat, even though obviously the gel coat, I mean, it's like chalky. But yeah, I just don't want to sand any of that down. I'm in here this morning checking out my work. So yesterday I did all the MarineTex work in the morning, which obviously the color doesn't match, but you know, at least there's no holes anymore. And then I cut some fiberboard, or marine board, I guess is what it's called. And I still have to do a little sanding on it, but I got the general shape. So those are gonna keep stuff from falling out of the cubbies. And I got a bunch of cleanup to do in here and some vacuuming. So that's one of the screw holes that were in the cubbies. And here's the other screw hole in the cubby. So there's a little low spot there too. Very small though. And again, you know, I'm not, this is not perfection. Like, I am just trying to get this boat on the water. I mean, this boat needs all kinds of work. You can see this huge crack right there. I mean, the gel coat's in pretty bad shape, but you know, I'm just trying to get it to where it's watertight and I can get it out on the water. It smells of rust. Yeah, this boat has plenty of issues, that's for sure, but it's getting there. All right, so when I install this, I want it to be even with this edge. This is the straight horizontal edge. So this edge needs to be at the same height all the way across. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use 2 Lego blocks. I'm gonna hang them one on each side, and that'll be my reference point. All right, so I got this in, it's nice and straight. So I'm gonna use some 3M5200 in each of the holes. So right now I'm just making sure all the holes line up and that the screws will go in there without tearing up the fiberglass and the gel coat. So looks good, and just gonna wait until I am ready to do all my 3M5200. This is my 3M5200 fast cure. So once I puncture the seal of this, you have 24 hours to use it. Okay, so when you're using the 5200, because it gets everywhere, it's a lot easier to use small swatches, basically, of cloth. Because instead of using one big clean rag and like constantly flipping it over, trying to find a clean spot, this you can just use it a couple times and then toss it aside and then go to the next one, and it's a lot easier.